Now, we will be learning kung paano gawin ang cubism. No? Not that much na parang sa style na ni Picasso, but we will learn the basics on how we will deconstruct a figure using both wet art materials such as acrylics and watercolors, and also dry materials such as crayons, so that you won't have a problem kung wala kayong materials at home. As a starter for everyone, please find something that you can paint inside your room. We'll do this in a fast manner. So I am using this jar. I'll just put it aside as a reference. For those that will use wet materials, you can use acrylics, paintbrush, or watercolor. And for those who will use dry materials, you can use crayons or colored pencil. Let's start with sketching, okay? Let's sketch first the initial impression of our subject. Okay, I'll be drawing my subject. Okay, that's how my subject looks like. But in Cubism, we need to incorporate the back angle, the lower angle, the side angle, and all the angles around it in just one plane. So, kumbaga lahat ng dimensions, pagsasamahin natin together. So, let's try. I'll sketch it again. But I will try to incorporate all the angles involved. So, yung side angle niya, i-drawing ko ulit dito sa side. I-displace ko lang ng kaunti. Maging itong nandito, yung takip niya. I will also be drawing the lower side like this, maintaining the figure as we go. So now we have the let's try to outline that out so you can see it better, no? This is our main figure. You don't need to outline, I'm just outlining it po so you can see how it worked out. So this is the main figure. Now I drew the side right here. I do it like that. I drew the other side like this. I just displaced it a bit. The lower side here, the other side here. Okay, as simple as that. We just need to incorporate all the sides together, combining everything in one plane. Okay. I will start with the dry materials that we have. I have here crayons and colored pencil too. Now what I will do is color out my initial planes. Okay, so I'll choose orange too. I may choose other colors, but I'll choose the color of the original muna. Then you can add a different color for the other plane. So this is my, you can overlap the two and it will produce a different effect. Now this may not be how Pablo Picasso does Cubism, but basically it's the same concept due to him adding different dimensions all together in one plane. deconstructing, then constructing it once again. Just like a Lego brick, diba? Oftentimes we create, then destroy it, and then recreate something else. Now I'll draw the initial figure, the initial plane. I'll color it the inside. Then I'll add in another, I think, orange yellow. And another inside. I am from time to time I'm adding colored pencil. Since it's a textured, this is a textured paper, so things look more sketchy than smooth papers. Okay. Let's try to create a shadow. Well, if you will have more time, no, you can create much complex figures than this, and also much detailed works pa, because we only have such time, kaya medyo kailangan mabilis natin siya gawin. Okay. Let's open that out. I'll draw the table. Add in some colors. Whites. Now for those who are using acrylics, you'll see later how the technique could be a little different, but the outcome could come out the same naman. Okay. Let's try to differentiate the background. I'm using the complementary of orange as a background para medyo mag-stand out ng kaunti, but I will use white to soften that out. Well, since crayons are wax based, they work in a way that oil pastels work. Okay, so they spread easily if you have blenders such as color white pigments. Okay, add for a few details. That's it. You can add in more ideas of shape if you want to. I'll add more red, so obvious ang shape natin. Or you can add complementary pa para mag-outline ng shape. That's it. So basically, that's how Cubism goes, okay? You can see all the planes in one picture being merged together like a puzzle reconstructed. And you have it. You have this kind of work. Now, when you try to imagine one thing combined in a single plane. So, that's using crayon. I cutted out the paper where I drew the base and try to improve on the background so that we can have it here on the side, because now we will be doing the one with the acrylic and watercolor. So let's try to sketch it larger so we have a larger work area. Make sure na simple lang yung ginawa nyong subject or pinili nyong subject so that you can work on it and try to study. These are used actually for art studies, no? Before you create your cubism painting, you study on something na madali i-manipulate. So I have my two sketches here. Let's try to sketch this again in a different view. The top one, let's try to displace that. You can explore and explore other shapes din naman, as long as what you are deconstructing ay magkikita pa rin. Okay, so you can displace this, put this on the side, and with this I'll do it differently. I'll draw the circle below, try to displace that, draw another base right here, okay, and draw right here, smaller one, different angle, position. Okay, now it's up to you if how you would like to do it. Some uses, oh sorry, I'm sorry about that. Some uses colored pencil, okay, to create their initial shadows, but we do it like this, simply like this. Well, it requires more time to have more details, but I'm just showing you for the sake of learning. Okay, their initial shadows. Most of the time they use oil based pencils like Polychromos, or it's the brand of this one, Prismacolors, but some uses charcoal pencil as it has an effect on how the paint will look like, especially oil. Cubism is not always sharp edges, okay? You can still have rounded shapes or rounded sides. That's okay. If you want to improve on that, you can practice on it. But for the time being, it's okay na muna ganyan muna siya. Okay. Okay. Water on the side, brush. We'll do it fast, no? Ng kaunti. We'll start with acrylic. So, nalagyan na tayo. It's depende sa inyo kung anong color. You can stay true to what you are seeing in the subject, but you can also choose other colors po. Okay, when using acrylics, white can be a handy tool in creating dimensions. Basically, that will be the look if we use acrylic, but depending on your style, as long as you will abstract, deconstruct what you see with your subject, it will work and we'll still call it art. Okay, so this is with acrylic. Again, if you want a more detailed work, you will be needing more time. The same techniques apply to watercolor, but let's have a look on how does a watercolor work will look like. In watercolor, you just let the water work, and well, since we are using a canvas paper and it is primed with gesso, watercolor won't work on it well. But on watercolor papers, mas mabilis siya matuyo and it will work well ng sobra. But as you can see, our acrylic work is already dried and we can put some shadows to it using watercolor habang pinapatuyo natin yung isa nating gawa. Okay, how's your work? I hope your work's already done and you are satisfied with it. If not, you can go back to it anytime you want and improve it. Our watercolor hasn't dried up yet, but you can improve on the shape and the depth with dry materials such as colored pencils once it dries up. And this is our acrylic work. Okay, this is our work with our colored pencil. So basically, that's how you do cubism. This is clinging more to the late style of Picasso, which is total deconstruction ng isang figure. We combine all the planes into one plane, or all the dimensions into one plane. So I hope you learned something today, and if you find time creating your artworks. Goodbye! So here's the dried version of the painting. So on the left we have a watercolor that I improved using crayons, and this is the acrylic version.